guys, my name's Ollie and you're watching The Selling Point. Today I'm going to be reviewing episode 2 of the Cruiserweight Classic, which is featuring 4 more matches from the first round of this knockout competition. Now, I just love the Cruiserweight Classic, I'm buying into it so much, and the 4 matches on episode 2, which happened on Wednesday night, were just pretty good and had a really nice crop of elite wrestlers from around the world. Now, match 1 to kick it all off was kind of a match I was really looking forward to, because I finally, after so many years, got to see Tajiri back in a WWE ring. Growing up, Tajiri was the Cruiserweight champion for me on SmackDown, heel wrestler. I really love heel wrestlers, and it was just a really nice, nostalgic kind of feeling to see Tajiri back in the ring. Tajiri was wrestling Damien Slater. Most Australian wrestling fans will probably know a bit more about Damien Slater than what we would know. So, I was very excited to see what kind of a match these two could actually put on. Not knowing much about Damien Slater, I was really impressed with his wrestling throughout the whole match. It was very smooth and very technical. There was a lot of catch-as-catch-can in the first opening minutes of this match. After that, Tajiri kind of started focusing on Slater's left arm. Slater did a great job the whole match of selling the left arm and really making you think that the methodological striking of Tajiri was actually causing some real damage. As the match carries on, there's a really nice sequence where Tajiri gets sent to the outside by Slater, who then hits all I can really describe as a massive corkscrew splash over the top rope, taking himself and Tajiri out. At this point, the fans are going pretty wild for this. Slater wasn't really too over when he made his entrance, but I think they fans in attendance, they really sort of bought into Slater as the match went on. So after the splash, Slater picks up Tajiri, rolls him back inside. Slater goes back inside and goes to pick up Tajiri. It's just something that's so clever and actually very simple, and probably something a lot of wrestlers do miss out on. Tajiri just simply grabs the wrist of Slater, and suddenly, next you know, Tajiri pops up and has Slater in a wrist lock. From there, there's a few more exchanges and sequences. Ends up with Tajiri hitting Slater with a massive super kick type shot to the face. As Slater gets back up, hands come down, buzzsaw kick. Slater's out for the 1-2-3. Tajiri progresses on to the next round of the Cruiserweight Classic, where he's facing Grand Metalik, which should be a really great match. Obviously, Tajiri had a massive program back in the day with Super Crazy, and Grand Metalik wrestles the same sort of style as Super Crazy, so really looking forward to that match. Second match of the night was TJ Perkins versus the Mack. TJ Perkins, obviously a massive player in Evolve Wrestling right now. He's been to New Japan. I actually believe he was one of the youngest wrestlers to, or the youngest wrestler to ever wrestle in the Tokyo Superdome, which is quite something. He's obviously a very young age still, very over talent in terms of what promotions do with him as a character. I'd be very surprised if WWE don't actually try and offer him a contract after this tournament. The Mack is a German wrestler. I didn't know very much about the Mack, and this is the thing I love about the Cruiserweight Classic. It's just the fact that I can experience new wrestlers that I wouldn't necessarily get to see in Britain or wouldn't really be exposed to. So yeah, I really look forward to this match. The Mack kind of self-styles himself around being the Michael Jackson of wrestling, and TJ Perkins says that he does the simple things very well, and that he makes the hardest things in wrestling look simple. Again, I was very excited to see this. I haven't seen very much of TJ Perkins' work, but from what I have seen, he looks like a phenomenal talent. Just the whole kind of first 10 minutes of the match really was very technical based, very Technica, again, catch-as-catch-can wrestling. They got into some high spots as the match went on, but there was always such a great smoothness to everything they were doing in the match. From people who know TJ Perkins, he has kind of as a thing where he gets sent into the ropes, and he does like I think it's known as a web rope hang, where he kind of spins through the ropes and then comes back. That actually happened in this match. I think his timing was slightly off, and he went through the ropes, but I didn't get enough to send himself back through, so he caught himself on the apron and hit a dab, or as Daniel Bryan said, he dubstepped. Yeah, he dabbed on the apron and he made it look as if he meant to do it. Obviously, it threw Mack off, but again, nobody really kind of stumbled or got lost on the way. They just carried on with the dance, with the match, and it was just a fantastic match. TJ Perkins has obviously progressed, but Mack, people don't know about Mack. Check out Mack. A very, very good wrestler from what I've seen, and I would recommend watching some of his matches. I'm going to try and find more of Mack on YouTube, and hopefully now, after this bit of exposure, a UK promoter will bring him over here. The next match was Mustafa Ali versus Lince Dorado. Obviously, Mustafa Ali got into the tournament because somebody dropped out. I believe that's how he got into the tournament. But obviously, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. That'd be nice to know. The whole match had a very like luchador high spot vibe to it, really. So it was a lot quicker than the first two, but again, it was just as good as the first two. The great thing about the Cruiserweight Classic is every match so far has had something very different to it. They allowed the match to breathe as well. They're kind of, the only spot was like a missed 450 kind of splash, really, which kind of set up the finish. Again, Lince Dorado, he got the 1-2-3, and he is progressing on to the next round. It's a great all-round match, really. I don't have very much to say on it because it was that good. I really recommend, if nobody's seen it yet, to go and check it out. Lince Dorado versus Mustafa Ali, Cruiserweight Classic, 20th of July 2016. It is a fantastic match. Definitely go and check it out. Now, the last match on this episode of the Cruiserweight Classic was Akira Tozawa versus Kenneth Johnson. I don't know much about Kenneth Johnson, but I believe that WWE actually told him that he had to sort out his speech impediment. He had a very serious speech impediment, from what I've heard and from what they actually recognised on the Cruiserweight Classic, that almost stopped him from getting into this tournament, and he had a 4 or 5 week period to actually fix it, and when he came back he fixed it, so he got his shot in the Cruiserweight Classic. Obviously, Tozawa being the name that he is in Japan, he came out, the crowd bought into him instantly. You know, they were definitely there with everything that he was selling them. The match in general itself was probably the worst match of the night, and probably the worst match of the Cruiserweight Classic so far. Not worst match in the fact that there were botches and it was really, really off. It was just kind of, Kenneth Johnson and Tozawa didn't really have much of a fluidity or connection to the wrestling in the ring. There wasn't much communication, whether that was a language barrier, obviously, between Tozawa and being Japanese and not knowing very much English. But apart from that, I can kind of see Tozawa, now he's won this match, going quite far in the Cruiserweight Classic, simply for the reason that the crowd have bought into him, and obviously he is such a big name. The only thing that really stands out for me in that match was the fact there was a lot of forearm exchanges just before the finish, and Tozawa kind of hulked up, if you will, and just came back with some of the stiffest forearms I've seen. And to finish the match, there was a German suplex from Tozawa. He pinned Johnson. Johnson kicked out. He then got up so much quicker than Johnson, picked him up, and I personally would describe this as a deadlift delayed German suplex. He lifted him up, he carries him forward, holds him, waits, and bang, straight back, dumps Kenneth Johnson on the back of his head, bridges into the pin, 1, 2, 3. I kind of like seeing moves like that, like a German suplex as a finisher. It kind of reminds me of the Chaos Theory by Doug Williams. It's a classic wrestling move that is legitimately used as a finisher, and somebody's not kicking out of it, whereas obviously on TV now people are kicking out of like dirty deeds, they're kicking out of pedigrees, and to me that sort of loses a bit of authenticity and almost destroys kayfabe in a way. A finishing move is a finishing move and should be in place to actually finally stop your opponent from kicking out of a pinfall, and it was just really nice to see that somebody genuinely cared about a suplex enough to put it over as a finishing move, and it was the only time it was used, and it was used effectively to put Kenneth Johnson down for the 1-2-3. That was my review of the second episode of the Cruiserweight Classic this week. Be sure to tune in again to the Selling Point. I believe we've got Mack currently covering every day of the G1 Climax, which obviously that's so much wrestling to cover if you know about the G1. So make sure you stay tuned to that. And I believe we've got Dave, who is doing a review of the season finale of Lucha Underground. I'm yet to check that out, but he's told me it's worth the 2-hour watch. So stay tuned to the Selling Point for more of your wrestling reviews. Peace.